Hey guys, we're going to be going for another Osta clear. This is going to be a slow clear, not really for high score. This is for those of you that just want to get a clear in on level 99. We're not using modifiers. So I posted a few clears already for the regular clears. If you can OTK the boss, that's obviously the most direct and the most simple way to do it. I showed a way to do that with Arden on turn 5. You could also do that with a powerful terror or something. But if you can't do the OTK clear, I showed a way to use hide to slow clear the boss with like cheesy hiding. It required a ton of limited gear, so if you didn't have that, here's another way. Although this is going to use another limited item, the Seraph Staff. Now this is a very recent limited item, so hopefully most players currently playing have this item. The Seraph Staff was given like 2 months ago from an event. But this, with the special item world bonus, gives an undispellable status immunity buff. Now, the reason this is important is because the big problem with this boss is the boss will dispel your party, then use Unresistible Paralyze on your Provoker, which turns off evasion. Then later in the fight, the boss also does non-elemental physical, which gets your Provoker killed. Then the boss kills the rest of the party, and things go downhill for a slow clear. But with the Seraph Staff, this is an undispellable status immunity buff, so the boss cannot remove this, which means the boss cannot paralyze you, even during threshold and dispel turns, which means your tank never loses evasion, your tank never gets hit, your tank is immune, the party never dies. So this allows us to basically negate the boss with the Seraph Staff. There's only a 3-turn buff, but if you read the fine print, anytime you Brave Shift, it refreshes the buff. So we're going to put that on Ling as a Provoker that's going to Brave Shift most turns to keep the buff active. Now Ling is not required for this. We're just picking her because she can Brave Shift at will, and she has a lot of evasion naturally, so she's easier to gear. You could do the same build of like Shoreline Fina and Daisy, Cacteria, Beatrix, or if you have a lot of STMRs, you can do it on technically anyone, as long as they can Brave Shift every 3rd turn at a minimum. They got to be able to Brave Shift every 3rd turn. So someone with like a long duration Brave Shift, like Zidane, for example, a 4-turn Brave Shift, that's not going to work because the buff would wear off, and you can't have that. So they need to be passive provoke, full evasion, and 160 fire and 150 dark resist. Notice she's not immune to statuses. That doesn't matter. The buff from Seraph Staff completely overrides all status resistance, even from gear. So you don't need any from gear. She's naturally immune to the bad ones anyway, but you don't need any status immunity from gear other than the Seraph Staff. So just to recap, 160, not 150, 160 fire resist, 150 dark resist, full evasion and passive provoke, and the Seraph Staff in both forms. So we're using Equip Staff for this. She's getting provoke from the Moogle Charm, the Durandal, and the Danger gets the blood pumping. That's 20. Durandal is 30. Moogle Charm is 50. She's getting fire resist from the Omega Metal and Phoenix Synergy, and then a little bit from the Vision card. And then we gave her like Call of the Wild and Arden's Hat just for the LB per turn, so she can every now and then use like her buffs and stuff. But that's not critical. So if you're not using Ling, you're using like someone else. That's all they really need are those parameters. Now the rest of the team needs to be full evasion. They don't need any status resistance whatsoever, just full evasion. So we're taking Bradley and Zidane as our DPS. They're going to chain every single turn. The reason I'm picking them is because they chain together, and they both have really, really high natural evasion. Zidane has 80% evasion with only his TMR equipped, and Bradley's got 50% with only his TMR equipped, or 80%, I think, with his STMR equipped. So they gear for evasion super easily. You can bring any DPS you want. Preferably stick to a fire, earth, or wind DPS. We're using fire weapons on the DPS, so we don't got to worry about imbues. And we're bringing Vaughn as our breaker because he breaks and imperils fire. So one thing you also need is someone to AoE dispel your entire party every single turn. We're going to use Ling to do that as double duty. She's going to dispel the party every single turn. Other options are like Benevolent Beauty Rim, the original Luna Freya. You could also do something like give Bushido Freedom to a unit that is not using accuracy. That way they always miss, but it still dispels. You could also use the dual cast Dispel trick, but you got to dispel your own party every single turn. That's to remove the damage over time. Also, later in the fight, the boss is going to imbue your party every turn with bad elements, so that'll remove the imbue. So we're going to use Ling to dispel. Now, Ling's dispel is unfortunately AoE. It also hits the enemy. So we're going to use Vaughn to reapply breaks and imperils every single turn. So Vaughn's going to be our breaker. And then we need someone on the party to buff status immunity for everyone else. The Seraph Staff is only single target. We're going to use Dr. Aiden to AoE buff status immunity. Aiden has natural evasion, so he's a little bit easier to gear for this. Okay, so the rest of the party, Bradley is using a fire weapon. He is full evasion, and he's just got a little bit of mana regen, and preferably an auto buff for either attack or magic, depending on the DPS you're using, because this can't be dispelled, so it means it'll always have a nice attack buff active. So there's his build, shift form, exact same build, full evasion. Lightning Fast Zidane, same thing, using a fire weapon, and he is full evasion, little bit of killers, auto bravery, and then shift form, same thing, a little bit higher killers, a little bit higher DPS, and there we go. So they, again, don't need any resistance or any status immunity. The buffs we're using are overriding all that, so don't worry about any of that. Now, they are going to die every 10th turn from dark damage. If you want to prevent that, you can give your DPS 150 dark resist, and they'll survive that too. But I figured I'd just raise them every 10 turns instead of wasting slots on 150 dark resist. So the rest of the party, Vaughn is going to be just full evasion, and 150 dark resist, because we don't want him to die to the every 10th turn attack. So 150 dark resist, full evasion, that's all that matters. Nothing else matters. He doesn't need any status resist, nothing. And then Dr. Aiden, same thing, 150 dark resist, full evasion. And yeah, he's going to be doing status immunity, and he's also going to raise the dead. Vaughn could raise the dead too, if we wanted to. And that's the party. There's an empty party slot. I'm just leaving that because I don't need anyone else. But you can use that empty party slot to bring anything you want. So if you're not using Ling, let's say you're using Shoreline Fina and Daisy as your provoker with evasion and all that, and the Seraph Staff, you could use like this last party slot for like Luna Freya or Benevolent Beauty Rim to dispel your own party every single turn. Or you could just bring like, I don't know, a 4-star unit with evasion and use Bushido Freedom every turn. Whatever. Anyway, let's go ahead and get the clear in, and I'll show you how this works. So it's not going to be like the quickest clear because the boss, we're only using chainers, which is, the old school way to play the game. It's all about finishers now. But yeah, it's fine. So Ling is going to shift almost every turn, and we're just going to use her to clean movement to dispel, and then just Blast Step for morale. That's just, to make this a little bit quicker. So Vaughn every turn is just going to full breakdown and fire imperil after you dispel. Aiden will full immunization and MP regen. And the rest of the DPS can just chain. We're going to shift Zidane because this shift form is a little bit higher DPS. And we're just going to chain SR. Whoops, wrong skill. We're going to chain SR. And then Bradley's going to shift because his shift form is more damage. And we're just going to chain SR and deal some damage here. Alright, so now here's the boss where he dispels. Normally your your provoker would get paralyzed here. As you see, Ling is not going to get paralyzed because she is using the Seraph Staff and it cannot be dispelled. So there we go. So we're going to shift Ling. And unfortunately, the reload button is broken. We got to do this manually. So we're going to go ahead and clean movement and blithe step. Vaughn will reapply brakes. Aiden will reapply status immunity. And we'll keep chaining. Now, the boss does have buffs for 3 turns. So the chaining is going to do a whole lot less damage. But once those buffs wear off, the damage will pick up again. Okay. So some attacks, we're evading it, so we don't have to care about all that. And yeah, so you only have to shift your provoker every 3rd turn. So we're just going to go ahead and just not bother shifting again. And do this. Go ahead and chain. And yeah, so we're just keep going. So later in the fight, the boss is going to do more attacks. On turn 10, he's going to do a dark attack. So we'll see that soon. There's the damage over time. There's poison. The boss is dispelling our party. We don't care about dispels because we're dispelling our own party anyway. So like the boss dispelling us doesn't even matter. So we'll go ahead and just reload Ling. You know, we're shifting to keep that Seraph Staff buff active on Ling. If that Seraph Staff buff ever wears off, she'll get paralyzed during dispels, and she'll die, and bad things will happen. But yeah, so now the boss's buffs are going to wear off next turn. We're finally going to deal more damage, but we're about to push another threshold, so the buffs are going to go back up, unfortunately. All right, Zidane is back in the base form. We'll just swap him to his non-elemental chain. We do a little bit less damage, but you know, whatever. All right, wait for this to finish, and let's go ahead and chain it up. Push that next threshold. 75%. Yep, there we go. So the boss is going to dispel yet again. This would, like I mentioned, this would paralyze your tank if it wasn't immune from the Seraph Staff. The boss's buffs are back up for 3 turns, but whatever. Let's go ahead and shift Ling just to keep that Seraph Staff buff going. Clean movement, blithe step. Reapply Imperil and brakes, and just keep chaining it up. Yeah, this is basically the clear. So there's going to be a few, you know, things to watch out for during the fight. So every like 8 turns or something, the boss might zombie someone. If the boss does zombie someone on your party, you know, make sure you keep watch for it. You would use the morale skills, Remedial Will, to cure the zombie. So just keep an eye out for that. All right, so Ling, let's go ahead and let's just reload Ling. All right, and then break Imperil, keep this up, and yeah, we just keep damaging. So like I mentioned, on turn 10, the boss is going to do a dark attack. Aiden, Vaughn, and Ling are immune to dark damage with 150 resist, so they're not going to die. Bradley and Zidane will get technically killed, although they both have guts, so they're going to survive, but they actually won't die until turn 20. Let's go ahead and shift Ling to refresh that Seraph Staff. And just keep clean movement and blithe step up. Wait for the dispel. Reapply brakes. Is the boss still buffed? Yeah, 1 more turn. Alright, the boss's buffs wear off next turn, which is great. And I technically could be using Vaughn's better Imperil, better dispel, or not dispel, better Imperil, better brakes. But because of the reload button is broken, that would make his reload not work. But I'm going to go ahead and do it this turn. Let's go ahead and clean movement and blithe step. Let's do this first. Zidane's... Oh, shift is not even ready. Oh, well. Here, we'll go ahead and use Vaughn's LB for better breaks and imperils. Wait for this to finish. Because the boss's buffs have worn off. So we'll go ahead and do this, and we will get a nice damage turn in. Yeah, and now that the boss's buffs are gone, we're doing more damage. At 50%, the boss's buffs will come back up. There's Deathly Plague, Dispelling the Party, don't care. Alright, there's zombie. Look at King Bradley got zombie, as you can see. So we're going to use remedial will to get rid of that zombie. Boom, zombie cured. You gotta watch for that, because if you're not, your unit can die. So Ling, we'll just go ahead and shift here. Let's just clean movement and blithe step. We'll put Vaughn back on reload for lazy mode. Full breakdown, fire Achilles, status immunity. We'll go ahead and shift Zidane. We can do more damage now. So we will boom, boom, boom. And chain it up. Yeah, as you can see, when the boss's buffs go away, the damage goes up a whole lot. Okay, here's the dark attack. The front row is immune. The back row is not immune to dark damage with 150. So we are... But they gutched it, so, you know, whatever. Alright, Ling. Dispel. Breaking in peril. Chain it up. And here we go. Alright, next threshold. So the boss can start doing more attacks now. This is when the boss is going to start doing some attacks that ignore cover. I'm sorry, ignore provoke. Also, he does gravity damage. There's the Baleful Claw. That would have killed the tank on that turn if your tank was not Seraph Staff immune. The damage we took is gravity damage. It won't actually kill your party, so you can ignore that. It looks dangerous. It's not. Clean movement, blithe step. All right. Let's see here. Reload. Do you? And we can technically start doing resounding will for a big buff on the party. Attack and magic to deal more damage. The boss does have threshold buffs again, so the 100% defense buff is making the boss take less damage. There's Deathly Plague, and here's Trinity Absorption and all that. The boss is imbuing us with bad elements and absorbing them, but because we're dispelling our party every single turn, we don't care about the bad elements. We'll just reload Ling. Do this. Attack and magic buff. And chain it up. The next threshold is at 25%. Yeah, once your morale gets to the point that you have the 400% buff every turn, you know, the damage goes up a large amount. There's Malevolent Claw, another attacks that ignores cover, or ignores provoke, I believe. Let's go ahead and shift Ling to keep that Seraph Staff active. Let's see, Dispel and Blithe Step. Yeah, the boss is still buffed. Let's go ahead and do a nice attack and magic buff. Alright, Zidane's back in the base form, so less damage for a few turns. Alright, next turn, the bosses... Unfortunately, pretty much each time the boss's buffs wear off, we reach a new threshold. Alright, here's the gravity attack. Again, it cannot kill you, it's just gravity. As long as you're not covering it. If you're covering it, your tank would die. So I guess actually Phasey is not great here because she would cover the gravity attack. Maybe Phasey is a bad choice here. I actually didn't think of that. Attack and magic. And this should push the threshold here. So the boss is going to get buffs yet again. Yep. Next threshold, the boss is going to Immortal Frame, Dispel the party, etc. Deathly Plague, Immortal Frame. Dispels, Cruel Umbra, Baleful Claw. We're evading it. The tank is evading because we can't be paralyzed. More Baleful Claws. Yeah, this is when the boss would be like, you know, going crazy, killing people. But we are cheesing it with the Seraph Staff. Let's go ahead and clean movement and Blithe Step. Wait for this to finish. Reload these. We can do an attack and magic buff. Deal some damage. In 3 turns, the boss's defense buff will wear off, and that is the last time the boss is going to defense buff. So, yeah, we will do better damage in 2 more turns. Dispel, reapply debuffs and immunity buff. Yeah, it's important to reapply the immunity buff every turn as well. That is keeping us immune to the initial attack the boss does. And make sure you check every turn if anyone's getting zombied. So far, he only did zombie that one time earlier in the fight. I've been watching for it, and I haven't seen any more zombies. But if he does ever do a zombie again, we will cure it with the morale skill. Let's go ahead and shift Ling, keep that buff going. Clean movement, Blithe Step. Let's see, do this. Alright, next turn, the boss's defense buff is gone, and we'll do a lot more damage. I think Zidane's shift form is coming off cooldown really soon as well. So the fight will be over around turn 20. All these attacks. Because our tank cannot be paralyzed, we are just laughing this off. Yep. Seraph Staff is amazing. Amazing. Alright, let's go ahead and do this. Alright, we'll go ahead and use Vaughn to do a good break. We'll shift Zidane. And because we've got Vaughn's good break, Zidane is shifted, and the boss's buffs are gone, this is probably going to be the end of the fight right here. Let's see. Yep. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay, so yeah, if we were using, like, you know, a better breaker than Vaughn only does 80% breaks on demand. If we were using, like, Cacteria or something, an Earth element, you know, we would have been a lot quicker. But whatever. What was that, 19 turns? It wasn't too slow, to be completely honest here. So yeah, and you can swap out the DPS for anyone you want, and it's going to slow clear. So with the Seraph Staff, you cannot be paralyzed. Your provoker. Just shift them at least every 3 turns, and you will just laugh off the boss. Okay. See you next time.